AAT Birds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Not where. Midfield. He's at the 40. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up his head and falls forward. And he fumbles the football and the Eagles have it. It's one. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds. All the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AAT Birds Weekly Report. I myself, Johnny Ulecka, is joined as always by Chip at Chip for the Birds. Going to talk about that embarrassing loss the Eagles had to the Arizona Cardinals. Not going to dig too much into it because we've seen it all over. It's more of what's going on and kind of getting more in depth into that heading into the playoffs. You have the game against New York Giants this week and then getting into the playoffs and some questions that we're going to pose to each other, kind of discuss a little bit of a few things. But yeah, it was one hell of a debacle when you look at a lot of things, looking at Eagles loss. And I did post this question and, one of the worst regular season losses at the link in probably their history. There's a couple that are there. I mentioned four of them in my thing. Of course, the loss to Cam Newton. They were up 17-0 in the fourth, lost that one. This one, the Joe Webb game, losing in 0-3. I guess some people said losing the first game of the opening of the link was, embarrassing along the lines of that. But this was just something that, watching the game, they're up 21-6. But the problem was, and it was evident early in the game, and I said, this defense can't stop anybody. They got lucky with holding them to a field goal, and they got lucky with that interception return for a touchdown. It was, to me, it was very frustrating because this was not what was supposed to happen when you looked at this game.
No, and you can even say, they were looking ahead like we've been saying all along with the loss to the Jets. But the fact of the matter is that this team was about as unprepared as possible on defense, and they still haven't figured out their offensive woes. I mean, you can just look at the last set of play calls, which were the two QB runs and then the bubble screen, which, got Devontae Smith hurt. And I'm really hoping that Devontae Smith is okay and able to play this week. I mean, I think going into the season, there were a lot of expectations because, again, this is a team coming off of a Super Bowl, and that's great. They lost a lot of players, as it tends to happen. And you look at, the Pro Bowl rosters come down, and who are some of the guys that get, Javon Hargrave is a Pro Bowler. TJ Edwards signs a huge contract and has earned it. These players are. They're good players and they're letting them go. And again, that's going to happen, especially with the Super Bowl roster. But with the coordinators that are being let go they're not being replaced appropriately. And there is something broken in this Eagles locker room. There's something broken in these coaching meetings. There is something broken with this team, and they have yet to fix it. We are going into the final week of the season, and this team has yet to play a good football game. It's just that they've yet to play a good football game. The wins that they have had, they've been wins, which is fantastic. But not a single win has looked good from kickoff to zeros on the clock.
I think a lot of it also has to do with when you look at the games. If you go game by game, they've had 2 touchdown leads. They've had, big enough leads. The first game of the year, they're up 16-0 against the New England Patriots, and Mac Jones is able to just will his way down the field.
Mac Jones. Again, say that again. Mac Jones.
Yeah. It's just,
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
These are quarterbacks that are not supposed to beat an elite defense.
The biggest problem is the players you did lose on defense, the Marcus Epps, the CJ Gardner-Johnsons, the, Kaiser White, the TJ Edwards.
Kaiser White had a great season until he got hurt.
For me, I think along the lines of the opportunistic portion of the defense, to be able to get the takeaways that they're not getting right now. So it's making it look even worse. And the players that you replaced them with, there's been injuries, and we've mentioned multiple times in the offseason, right before the beginning of the season, in the preseason, that this team's not going to stay as healthy as they were last year. It's just, if you look at everything and how it lines up, that's just not how it works. You don't stay healthy, year by year. You have injuries. You have multiple injuries. You have your depth questioned, and it was questioned. You have these young players, the Sidney Browns, the Eli Ricks, the Keely Ringos, these guys playing. You have guys like Nick Morrow, who is released, then brought back. Nakobe Dean gets hurt. You have all these things, these things that are playing a portion, Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat playing some of the most snaps they've ever played. Same with Jordan Davis. It's just, there's a lot that are coming into play. And unfortunately, the fundamentals of the defensive aspect. Now, the offense has their issues. We've documented those. We've said that. But when you really look at the defensive side of the ball and just making one or two stops, that's the major portion of it. It's just this defense it's struggling so bad, and it's so hard to watch because the confidence level as a fan isn't there, because you just, Kyler Murray and with 3-12 Arizona Cardinals scored 29 points in the second half and scored 35 points against you and ran the ball right down your throat at will.
And they knew, that's the thing, that we knew what they were going to do. They had almost no healthy receivers, and we knew what they were going to do. And sure enough, they did it. I mean, I think the thing that I think about with this Eagles team the most is their wheels are just kind of spinning and nothing is getting accomplished, right? So you mentioned, our defense. And our defense for a while was playing really, really well. But now we can't get a pressure on the quarterback. Derek Barnett has more pressures playing for the Texans than our stud defensive players that we allowed to stay here and got rid of Derek Barnett for. We're not getting pressures on the quarterback. We're running the ball, and then as soon as we start to run with any kind of success, what happens? Well, let's make sure that Boston Scott gets a carry. Let's make sure Kenny Gainwell gets a carry. Let's make sure that we call a bubble screen because of the wind blowing. I mean, I think that there's just so many excuses and not nearly enough answers. And at some point, before, Sean Desai was, the head that rolled. And we're going to replace him with Matt Patricia, and that's going to fix everything. And it didn't. Brian Johnson is the problem is the coordinators. The problem is the players. The problem is the scheme. The problem is the execution. The problem is that there is still a Super Bowl hangover. There are so many problems. And going into the last week of the season, you still don't have any semblance of answers.
No, and listen, the whole Matt Patricia, Sean Desai, the problem is Matt Patricia runs a totally different style of defense when you look at where he came from in the Bill Belichick tree. And, Hassan Reddick mentioned it today.
Yeah.
Talking about, they're just trying to learn that. And, it's tough going in the end of the season, trying to learn different philosophy that Matt Patricia is trying to install with them. And that's tough because you become out of position. We've seen it. And of course you can also have the miscommunication out of position, when you're not having guys, veterans like a Zach Cunningham or Darius Slay on the field for the last couple of weeks, and, getting those guys back hopefully helps you, on the defensive side of the ball. And just to me, it's just, the coordinators are an issue, but again, the coordinators don't play a snap. And they mentioned that too. They mentioned, AJ Brown mentioned that. And of course he talked about the whole, article and everything, which, we heard about that. And, for me, it's just him talking and everything like that. Yeah, there's frustration, which of course there's going to be some frustration. You look at anything in life, when you have something that's not going the way that you expect it to go or know it should go, because, hey, I have a brand new car. Why is it breaking down? Why is this giving me these issues? This should be this way. This should be done this way. You get pissed off. You get angry. You want answers. You want to know why it's doing that. So I understand that. And hopefully, these guys come together and they can do something to last, this going into the playoffs. But
I mean,
Listen, it's been a tough year because of everything that's happened. It's because of all the injuries, because of the performances, and you get out to a 2-touchdown lead and you wind up blowing it, and you have to at the end of the game. How many times did we see a team go right down the field, score? Or you had to stop them in the final minute or the final seconds, and all these things. It's been a tough year. It's been a very grueling season, a grueling campaign, the 2023 campaign. But
yeah.
it's been a tough year in general. Yes, they went to the Super Bowl and everything, but again, they did lose a Super Bowl, and then going into this season, starting off 10-1, and then now losing the last 4 out of their last 5 games has not been a good way to end 2023.
And I think the thing for me that, we talk about this all the time, the overreacting of Eagles fans and just Philadelphia fans in general. I mean, the fact that there is talk about firing Nick Sirianni right now,
Yeah, come on,
is moronic. I mean, look, the Eagles team last year overachieved. There's no denying that we were a good team who got to the Super Bowl probably a year or two early. Based on, the fact that Sirianni was a second-year coach, and now he's a third-year coach. But no one's firing a coach 3 years into his career when all 3 years he's made the playoffs. No one's firing that coach. I think that you got to put pieces around him in the coaching sections that know what the hell they're doing. You had 2 first-year coordinators, and they started calling it. So you're bringing a guy like Matt Patricia, who has coached defense before, but not this style. And if you're going to implement a Patricia style system, you got to do it in training camp. You can't do it this late into the season when you got players that are injured and players that are coming up. It's not going to work. And the Brian Johnson thing, he got the job very much like Friday Night Lights. Coach Taylor gets the job because Jason Street's the quarterback. Well, Brian Johnson gets the job. Why? Because Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. And maybe he's not qualified. And maybe the players aren't executing. And maybe too many coaches are falling on the swords. And maybe the coaches are the ones that should be falling on the swords. The problem is, once again, we are going into the last week of the season. We have playoffs looming, and we don't know what this team is other than underachieving and underperforming.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know what the defensive scheme is. Where is it, like, how it's set? Is it, hey, Nick wants to run this style defense, and you have to, come in and try to figure that out and, run it that way? Or is it coming from the top that they don't want to let explosive plays? And, for me, it's the dumbest thing is I don't want to let explosive plays. I don't want to do this because the problem of it is you just let a team go, you're just dink and dunk all the way right down the field. And then with 2 touchdown passes, this team's going to give up the most touchdown passes any defense has given up in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole, I don't want to give up explosive plays. Well, when it's 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 7, and you're playing 6, 7, 8 yards off the receivers, your pass rush has no chance. And it's funny because the interception, I know it was a bad route by the Cardinals receiver, but the way they played defense was they had everyone up on the line of scrimmage. They had the guys right up in the corners right up in the receivers' faces. And a little bit of pressure caused Kyler to throw it, and he lofted it up, and Sidney got the interception. But I really didn't see that the rest of the game.
No, you didn't see that the rest of the game. And the other thing is that, you mentioned you're not sure what the scheme is. Remember all the way back to Nick Sirianni's first press conference. It was, we are not going to be a scheme-based team. We are going to run the best scheme for the personnel that we have. Well, when the personnel is constantly changing and the coaches are constantly changing, your scheme, therefore, in theory, should be constantly changing, which means it says to me they are not changing the scheme for the players that they have, and you've got players who don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it just baffles my mind that they just keep running this out. Like, I would just love to see, when it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, you have guys rush the passer and not drop a guy like Hassan Reddick into coverage, or, to me that does nothing for you. You pay this guy to rush the passer. So on 3rd and long, a pass rushing situation, rush the passer and play the corners up. It's 3rd and 7. Don't play him 6, 7, 8 yards off. Play him 2 to 3 yards off. That extra half second makes a huge difference when you're trying to affect the quarterback's eyes, trying to affect his throw, trying to make sure it's not an on target throw, not a real easy. See, the problem is last week there were so many easy out route throws, in breaking routes, all these different things. And it's just, to me, that right there, you're just letting the team just walk their way right down the field. And that's what they did.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if it's the,
I do think they do replace the coordinators with, maybe they go a different route. And, because I did pose this question for offense and defensive coordinators. I put, a few guys together, some guys that are available, everything along the lines of that. And listen, I think new coordinators may help. And you also have to remember when they won the Super Bowl, they won the NFC Championship, went into Super Bowl week, you're getting into February. And the thing about that is everybody had their options, their head coaches, their coordinators, all of it was picked up. We knew Shane Steichen was leaving for the Colts, and you kind of had that inkling that Brian Johnson would be promoted from within. That was kind of basically he was going to get the job. But
how many coordinators did we miss out on because of that? How many coordinators did we miss out on because we were waiting and assumed that Jonathan Gannon was back, and the whole time, we missed out on Vic Fangio. We missed out on the thing that kills me is that you had an opportunity to play like you were pissed off at the world on Sunday for talking crap. You had or on Monday because they were talking crap. You had an opportunity to play pissed off at the world because of the fact that the Jonathan Gannon situation. And instead, you let them walk all over you. You let them walk all over you, and you did nothing to stop James Conner from having his best game of the season.
They did nothing. They out-physicaled them. And, Sidney Brown said it in an interview that, they were more physical. And you don't want that. And hopefully that opens up somebody's eyes, on the defensive side of the ball there, because, it's sad that it's a pretty tough watching Shaq Leonard try to run and, try to hit the holes. And it's just he's not the player he was. And it's frustrating to watch because, he has talent. It's just, the injuries right now have affected him. And I think I think Zach Cunningham is a huge portion of your run defense and a huge portion of your defense that you're missing, because he has played very, very well. And he's been out, I think 3 weeks now. Having him not play is a big loss. And I get the whole Darius Slay, and people are, mad at Slay, and, he's not big play Slay, all this stuff. But the problem is he is a whole heck of a lot better than what you have at corner. Keely Ringo's still young. Eli Ricks is still young. James Bradbury is like a shell of himself from last year. He just is not playing very well at all. Getting a guy like that back hopefully is beneficial. And listen, Avonte Maddox struggled. He had a tough game. I know he had an elbow thing. He got hurt, but
I feel like we're looking at all these players to come back and save this team, which, in theory sounds amazing, but that's not realistic.
Not that it's going to save them. Not that it's going to save them, but
Johnny, we sat here last week so excited that Avonte Maddox was back as if that was going to be the save all. We sat here a couple of weeks ago so excited that we signed Shaq Leonard because that was going to be the save all. In reality, this team is underachieving. They are not playing up to what they should be playing to. And someone, looking at what Ted's asking her, someone is going to have to get fired for this output. We talked about how, Brian Johnson could get a coaching job somewhere. Sean Desai could get a coaching job somewhere. They're not, which means someone's going to have to get fired for this season, and it's not going to be Nick Sirianni.
No, and unfortunately, listen, they're going to have to, do stuff with the coordinators. They're going to have to do something along the lines of that. It's just what it is. But to me, I think maybe the silver lining in this is maybe Howie and Jeffrey are looking at this, thinking to themselves, maybe we should invest a little bit in a linebacker and a little bit in the safety position.
The day that happens, Johnny.
I'm just saying because remember in 2020 they draft Jalen Reagor, because they want to
kick returning Jalen Reagor.
Yeah. They want to emulate the speed aspect. They want to do this. They pass on Justin Jefferson. They want to, try to replicate somebody else and doing something different and, doing all this, missing out on a player of that caliber, open their eyes because, you go off of what you want to try to duplicate of another team instead of getting a guy from a big time program and getting someone that could help you. Maybe this is this is where I'm saying it is, maybe it opens up their eyes thinking to themselves, maybe we should spend a tiny bit of money to get a linebacker. Maybe we should, draft a safety in the first 3 rounds of an NFL draft that we haven't done since Nate Allen was drafted, or Jaquan Jarrett. Now he stunk, but Nate Allen, like getting a player instead of trying to develop these undrafted free agents. And when you do develop an undrafted free agent, you let them leave to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
That's to me, it's like, you're not going to be able to just grab undrafted free agents and just keep developing them into solid players. It just doesn't happen. Every once in a while, you get your Quentin Michaels or your TJ Edwards. That happens. I understand that, but that's not something that's going to happen all the time.
That's not the norm.
It's not the norm. And listen, Nakobe Dean, we all talked about, hopefully Nakobe Dean was able to take over. Listen, he was a 3rd round pick for a reason. He is undersized. He is smaller.
And at this point, you can say he's also injury prone.
Yeah. And I think for them to just bank on him and then to just grab, lower free agent level guys like Nick Morrow and then sign a Zach Cunningham, a week and a half before training.
And Zach Cunningham has been really, really good.
Yeah. No, and I'm just saying, like, stuff like that. I think maybe it opens up their eyes to look into free agency or a trade for a player because, a linebacker who's disgruntled, there's all the last year of their deal, who's a very good player. There's stuff like that I think this team needs to start opening their eyes to. Yes, you want to build from your lines. I get that. I understand that. But again, that doesn't always work. You take a look at a team in Washington who drafted how many defensive linemen? The Jonathan Allens, the Montez Sweats, the Chase Youngs, Deron Paynes. They had 4 first rounders along the line and everything there. They just traded 2 of them away at the deadline, and they're left with the 2 interior guys. And yes, you want to build from within. I get that. But it isn't the end all be all. You can get guys in the 2nd, 3rd round to build those units up, but you can also go and grab a linebacker. You can also go and grab a safety, a corner. They need to start opening up their eyes to that.
And on top of that, you look at, okay, fine, you want to build the lines. You've gotten your Jordan Davises. You've gotten your Jalen Carters. Yes, you've got a couple more aging guys on line. Josh Sweat has turned out to be really a kind of a cornerstone player, which is great. Your offensive line, you've really built some players into there. At some point, you can stop getting linemen. You know what I mean? If you're going to let a guy like Isaac Salamalu go because you've got a Landon Dickerson, because you've got a Cam Jurgens, because you've got the guys that we have, fine. You've got Jordan Mailata. He's going to be here for a while. Lane Johnson, at some point, he's going to go away. Okay, fine. You already have Kelsey's replacement. Fine. You have to start looking at other positions in the first couple rounds, and you have to sign some big-name free agents to come in. Isaac Salamalu went to Pittsburgh on a huge contract. Why? Because he was developed at Jeff Stoutland University. It doesn't matter who you really bring in on the offensive side of the ball as long as you have Jeff Stoutland. I'm going to be very honest. If he turned Jordan Mailata into an all-pro caliber player, it doesn't really matter where you draft these players.
Yeah. No,
on the offensive line.
On the offensive line. No, it's true. Like I get you need top tier offensive linemen. You can get them in the 1st round, the 2nd round, which, Dickerson and Jurgens are 2nd rounders. And you have, Lane Johnson was a 1st rounder, but Mailata was a 7th rounder. Jason Kelsey was a 6th rounder. You can find your offensive linemen in all different rounds. It all depends on the type of player that you want to get.
It also comes down to the coaching. If you can develop these players, why do we have 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line? Because we have the best offensive line coach in football. So if you're telling me that you cannot develop receivers, right? Because of whatever reason, then that's a problem. If you're telling me you cannot develop linebackers because of whatever reason, that's a problem. If you're saying that we're going to sign corners and people in the safety for whatever reason, and they're not going to develop, that's the problem. You've got to get the right pieces to develop them. And I think the offensive line is a really important place to look when you see how Jeff Stoutland has made these players exceptional.
And I think a lot of things too, when you look at the defense and when you look at the old regimen, if you want to talk about Joe Banner, Andy Reid, all that, what did they do when guys hit 30 years old? They got rid of them. And if you look at this team, James Bradbury, Darius Slay, you have Kevin Byard, you have, guys who are older on the defensive line with Fletcher Cox and BG. And yeah, some of these guys have played really well. Fletch has played pretty well this year with all the snaps that he's taken. And, the rotation that's not there right now. But listen, they're not a young defense. And that's why I'm thinking you looking at the draft, you have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. It's time to start, filling out different positions than just your lines, your offensive and defensive lines. There's other needs on this team. There's other positions on this defense that need to be filled with some young players with a high ceiling, a lot of skill, that you're not trying to grab a guy in the 5th, 6th round and hopefully he turns out to be something. And you get those. I understand that, but it's just, I'm hoping the silver lining of this is that Howie's seeing this, thinking to himself, okay, we can't have this happen again where we have no depth at this position. And we're banking on guys who are unproven.
Or you're banking on guys to come in and be the saviors. Kevin Byard was not on this team. Why did they bring him in? Injuries. Shaquille Leonard was not on the team. Why did they bring him in? Injuries.
And I think it would be okay if you're trying to bank on guys like Nakobe Dean and Nick Morrow and guys who are unproven and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Reed Blankenship's, all these rookies and stuff. If this was 2021 and it's Nick's first year and you're just trying to, acclimate yourself in the NFL and stuff like that. But this is year 3. You're coming off of a Super Bowl. This is what
I was saying. We don't have time to develop talent at this moment. That window is here.
Like you can develop the talent.
You accelerated the window.
Developing talent doesn't always mean they have to play all the time, play right away. Eagles were able to develop a hell of a cornerback room, when they had Troy Vincent, Bobby Taylor, Al Harris, Dawkins. They had guys waiting in the wings that they drafted the year prior in Sheldon and Lido and Michael Lewis. Those guys were there. So you can do that. You can listen in the first round, this upcoming year, you can draft a corner and sit them behind, early. I'm not saying a guy in the 4th round, but you can draft a safety or a corner or a linebacker. You could do these kind of things and be able to sign a free agent to take over the snaps and let this guy learn and do these certain things. So to me, I just think something needs to happen this offseason when you look at the Eagles and what they do with their allocation of needs on the defense and what they do and where they put their money in certain position groups.
I agree. I want to bring this up real quick, right? Ted, he's had this comment up, and Ted did a really good job commenting so far. How do we feel about the A.J. Brown comments? We all know that A.J. Brown has kind of been silent for the last couple of weeks out of frustration. And finally he speaks up and he's saying, look, there's not a divide in the locker room. He's like, I'm pissed off. These coaches are falling on the sword for me. We're kind of making stuff up. I have no issue with A.J. Brown being a vocal leader. I have no issue with it. Now he's got to do something on the field, though, to back it up. That's my only thing.
Yeah, he's got to do it on the field. But again, he was targeted one time in the second half.
After having a good first half. That's my point. Why do we go away from the things that work? We are outthinking ourselves.
Yeah. No, there are. The problem with it is there's a certain point now in the second half when Arizona went down the field and scored and made it 21 to 13. Eagles had the ball. It was 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. The Cardinals ran a zero blitz. So they blitzed everyone in man. And Jalen threw a, deep pass to Devontae that went through his hands. Usually he makes those kind of catches, but
Correct.
Still was a tough catch. And if you really look at the all 22 of it, Julio was inside. If they notice that there's a blitz coming, Julio runs the slant route. You catch him right there. He's got the first down. Chains move. You go to the next set of plays and potentially work your way down the field to get some points. And I think that is very frustrating because you look at this team and it just seems like at points in times they try and get that huge play and try to, put the nail in the coffin. Like, listen, they're in the 3rd quarter. You work your way down the field. And it happened in the Seattle game. They go deep to Quez Watkins when they're running the ball and they're moving the ball right down the field. And they're only 15 yards from a field goal range, which would have put it a 2-possession game.
We talked about it last week that the defensive front of the Cardinals was one of the weakest in the league. They were absolutely atrocious at stopping the run. So why do you absolutely slap them around in the first half and then change everything that you're doing in the second half, start taking the deep shots in the third, and then when it's time to the fourth quarter to play catch up to move the ball, you do 2 quarterback runs and a bubble screen?
Yeah, and listen, AJ Brown mentioned
bad scheming and bad execution of the bad scheme.
AJ Brown mentioned the second play of that, the 2nd and 16. And I went back and I did post the play, what he was talking about. And Budda Baker comes out like he's going to be right in front of Dallas Goedert. And then right before the snap, he kind of shifts back and he comes rolling inside and he gets through. If Budda Baker is either blocked up or doesn't get through, Jalen has a clear lane. He's probably a first down, if not a touchdown.
But again, in the second to final week of the season, how are we not looking at film and understanding tendencies? How are we missing blocks on bad football teams? It's not like we had to double team any of these players.
No, it's way.
It's not like our offensive line had subs in there.
Yeah. No,
that was our front 5.
Listen, it's unfortunately the play wasn't blocked up. You want it the way you want it to be blocked up. But I don't know. I just think I saw what he's seeing there, but it just seems like there's a lot of that. Unfortunately, the little fundamental aspects of little things that don't go the way they need him to go. Listen, every play that you run isn't perfect. There's going to be little hitches. There's going to be little, things in the plays that aren't going to come out to your favor, but you kind of have to do what you need to do, improvise basically. And, Jalen does sometimes do a good job at improvising. Does he sometimes do it a little too quickly? Yeah, he does. But there were some plays in the game that, I liked, and there were some that I didn't like. But I just think right there, to me, the running was them just trying to be a little too conservative and try to just run the clock as much as they can, which honestly, I don't think you can do when your defense is playing the way it is. You've got to be a little bit aggressive because you need to score a touchdown to make them have to go down and score a touchdown and put the pressure on them to be able to, score a touchdown to tie you, not to get the lead because you kicked a field goal.
And I think Ted's point here, we know that I've been saying this for weeks. Jalen Hurts should not be RB1. Especially DeAndre Swift is a Pro Bowler, right? We have a running back as a Pro Bowler for the first time. When was the last time we had a Pro Bowl running back? Because it wasn't Miles Sanders.
Probably was shady.
Right. So why is Jalen Hurts RB1 is my question, right? He's going to get hurt. He's now a little uncomfortable in the pocket. He's making bad decisions because, again, the scheme of who he's able to throw the ball to has gone all over the place.
But people
got to fix this, and they got to fix this quick.
People have said the same thing about Lamar Jackson.
Of course,
Lamar Jackson has over 800, rushing yards. He's the leader in the clubhouse for MVP this year. Yes, the last 2 or 3 years he's been hurt at the end of the season, and
he's played a full season this year. He's not playing on Sunday, and he's going to win and should win the MVP.
Yeah, but I understand running him too much. I get that. I don't.
A lot of the times with Lamar Jackson, it is a scramble. It's not
you can get hurt with a scramble,
or it's QB draw. I am talking, and I think Ted's talking about here. Why are we calling QB runs?
Because
why are we calling quarterback sweeps around the side? Why are we it's just stupid. The fact that I can't get over it. The fact that they ran that quarterback sweep 2 times on that final drive is ridiculous.
Listen, he is a weapon in the both. He is a weapon in the run game.
If he's on the field,
you have to be able to throw that wrinkle in to defenses. But should they be a little bit more? I wouldn't say complex. Should be a little more like motion wise, like trying to throw the defense off a little bit to kind of get them, unbalanced. So then you can attack them. Yes, I think that's definitely something that should be implemented. Should there be hot routes when they blitz implemented? Yeah. Should there be more, easier throws? I agree. You shouldn't be running 4 verticals. You shouldn't be running. When you have a team, it goes to the Giants game, a team in the second half that just keeps blitzing you, yet you keep trying to run 10 to 15 yard routes. Like there's stuff along the lines of that become frustrating to watch when you watch this team. And, AJ Brown's comments, they know it's the players that have to,
almost in spite of the coordinators. They almost have to do it in spite of the coordinators.
Yeah, they have to be able to, make the plays that are there to be able to, win the games. And, it goes to both sides of the ball too. It's the defensive side of the ball and it's the offensive side of the ball. It's, get off the field on third down. When you are one of the worst teams in the NFL getting off the field on third down, what does that do? You're just extending drives, which means your offense is on the bench and the defense is just on the field time after time. And to me, the time of possession was a little skewed. I know it was a lot when you look at it, but remember the Eagles had that 99-yard interception return.
Yeah, they didn't get the offense into the second quarter until the 4 or 5 minute mark.
Yeah. So, there is that, but still, you still need to stop them on third down. You still need to be able to, not let them have, what was it? It was 4 touchdown drives they didn't punt once.
Not one
and
time.
Hey, our guy Brandon Mann was 58.5 punt average on last Sunday. Yeah, better than the picture I showed you of old 2005 version Reggie Hodges.
Listen, I told you in the offseason our biggest thing that we had to replace was our punter, and that's happened. I didn't realize that was going to be the least of our worries.
Listen, Michael Clay, special teams coordinator, he did a hell of a job this year.
He should stay.
Hell of a job. Last year struggled, and we were saying, hey, he may not make it after this. They may have to, replace him, but he did one hell of a job. You have a great kicker, the punting situation, the punt return situation. Listen, he's done a remarkable job, and absolutely, I will say he's definitely safe here for this season, at least.
We got to preview the Giants real quick.
All right. With that, we previewed the Giants, and then listen.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm neither worried nor confident about this game because Tyrod Taylor is going to have a big day because he's not Tommy DeVito. But I also don't necessarily I want to win because I want to win. And I want to win the East because obviously I want to win the East. But again, at the same time,
if Dallas goes up huge on Washington, I think the starters come out.
I am comfortable with not playing all of our starters anyway. Let Devontae Smith rest this week.
On that shit turf. And it's supposed to be.
And that's kind of my point. On that crap turf.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a knockdown, drag out brawl and just win the East and then have nobody to play the following week against the whoever.
Crazier things have happened, but apparently it's looking like Washington's going to be sitting a lot of players as well. I don't know why.
They're so bad. They tried to bench their quarterback and the backup got hurt. So now they have to play the benched starting quarterback.
Listen, Sam Howell had a heck of a game last year against the Cowboys. Crazier things have happened. Not saying it's going to. I don't expect it. I expect the Eagles to be the 5 seed to play the NFC South winner, which
it should be the Bucs.
Should be the Bucs. If the Bucs lose, then it's either Atlanta or New Orleans, which yeah. But it should be the Bucs. They play the 2-14 Carolina Panthers. I still haven't gotten, the record thing. The whole Eagles are going to, if they win, they'll be 12-5. I still haven't gotten that. I still am in the 16 game of 11-5 and 12-4. And that extra game just throws me off when you look at records and stuff and 8-9 and 9-8 and 7-10 and all that stuff. But
that sounds like an issue, not an issue. It's math.
Yeah,
dude.
Listen, I don't like the 18 weeks, and I know it's going to wind up going up to 20 in a couple years anyway. But yeah, so it's going to be, to me, it's going to be one of those games. May not mean much of anything, kind of like last year. Towards the end, I know last year did mean a little bit because they still had to get the home field to win. But looking at this year, if Dallas gets to a big lead, Eagles are just going to pull everybody, and we're just going to be watching like a preseason game. Going into, I'm telling you right now, if they get the 5th seed, which most likely what they're going to get, and they play Tampa Bay, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be Monday night wild card. They're going to get the Monday night wild. They're going to get the Monday night wild card, and then if they win that, they
have to go to San Francisco.
Short rest, go to San Fran. It's just the way it's gonna. That's the way this season has worked in terms of time off and scheduling, and it's just the way that it is. But with that, we have 2 things that we have to do before we head out. I know you're pretty eager to talk about one of them, but
it's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
Alrighty. So looking at the locks of the week from last week, I had Eagles create 3 turnovers. They only had 1, so that didn't work. And Reddick with 2 sacks. Again, another no. You had the Lions losing, which unfortunately they lost. The refs helped.
Yeah, we ain't talking about that.
And then you had the Raiders to beat the Colts, which didn't happen. So you ended up losing. You got 1 out of 2, but better than mine. So you at least were correct in one aspect.
Huzzah!
But listen, there's some good games this weekend. The Sunday night Miami Buffalo, that should be a good game.
Yep.
The Saturday night Houston Colts game, the winner of that game is in the playoffs. So that's interesting to, the other thing I think that's interesting is if the Eagles do finish in second place, they will have to play next year the Los Angeles Rams in LA. They play, depending on who finishes second place in the NFC North. Right now, it looks like it's Green Bay at home. And they would play the second place team in the AFC South, which is either going to be one of those 3 teams. Which means they miss, and Dallas would have to go to San Fran, play Detroit at home, and then the winner of the AFC South, which probably be Jacksonville. Yeah. Listen, you want to win your division, I get that. But if you want to look at a little bit of a bright side, maybe you can look at that. But which brings us to this week's Ulecka Locks. I am going with the Colts get the win against the Texans and make the playoffs, and the Bills win and win the division.
All right, well, thanks for taking both of the games I was looking at. I was waiting for you to do one, and I was going to do the other.
Nope, I did too.
All right. Well, let me look at my little shindig over here. Looking at
Adam saying that Eagles win and Cowboys lose. A little optimistic. I don't believe that's
going to happen. Cowboys win by 20. That's my lock.
Yeah. The funny thing is, if the Eagles do win and the Cowboys do lose, the Eagles would get the 2 seed over Detroit because the Eagles lost to Arizona. Their strength of victory would be better, which is pretty crazy if you think about all that good stuff. But yeah, and Detroit losing to Dallas also helps in that aspect too. But
I mean, not really losing to Dallas, but
yeah. But
yes, that's my pick. The Dallas wins by 20.
Dallas wins by 20.
Because I hate everything.
Yeah, that's probably going to happen. But now brings us to the prediction of the final week of the season. It's been a very exhausting season, I will say that, going over everything. But I'm going to go with this. I think by after halftime, I think the starters will be rested. I'm going to get the Eagles win 21-20.
Yeah, I'm going 24-21 Eagles. It's whatever.
Yeah. And listen, they win. Hey, they win. That's great. Whatever. If they win and somehow Dallas loses, I'll be pretty happy to get the 2 seed. That'd be pretty cool.
Sure.
But you don't expect it. Expect to go on the road, and so be it.
Honestly, unless they clean some of this crap up this week, I expect a 1 and done.
Yeah, unfortunately, you may be looking like that. Maybe they get 1 win in the playoffs, but it's tough. It is very, very tough. The way the season has gone this year, it's given me a lot of 2020 version, except for they've gotten the wins. They'd be able to claw
Right,
the
the ball
together.
has broken their way this year.
Yeah. So exactly. But yeah, it's been tough. And again, we're here basically all year round, and we got a lot to break down coming into the off season. But I don't want to start that. Hopefully
I'm not starting that yet.
No, hopefully for like another month, we can get some playoff games out of this, and keep talking some Eagles, and hopefully get a good playoff run. Get a little excited here into the winter months. But with that, I want to thank everyone for commenting, tuning in. Appreciate it. Adam's got 17-14 Eagles, but no, I want to appreciate everybody tuning in, and hopefully everyone had a great New Year's, and we'll be back as always, we are.
Always.
We always end it with a very, usually joyful 2 words, but it's just kind of 2 words right now.
It is what it is. Go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.